Hey guys, Ali Duzette here, and this is everything you need to know about this October 2nd, 2024 solar eclipse. We have so much going on. Of course, we had this eclipse portal starting on September 17th, 2 weeks ago. Every eclipse comes with at least one other eclipse, and they're always 2 weeks apart on the new moon and the full moon, or the full moon and the new moon. They don't always go lunar eclipse then solar. Sometimes it's solar eclipse then lunar. Sometimes you'll get 3 different eclipses each 2 weeks apart. And we almost have the situation here with a almost eclipse on October 16th. We're going to talk about that on a different day. But over the past 2 weeks, a lot of crazy stuff has happened, probably in your personal life, but definitely on a global level. Astrologically and astronomically, when you have an eclipse portal, this solar eclipse and then a lunar eclipse then a solar eclipse, it disrupts the normal relationship between the sun and the moon. This is a accepted biological, physiological phenomenon in terms of that this disruption affects the weather, it affects barometric pressure, it affects the movement of all the water on the earth, but it also includes the water inside of you. Your personal water is impacted by the movements of these different luminaries. People tend to act differently and think differently during eclipse seasons. And we have seen a lot of crazy stuff in the past 2 weeks linked to this eclipse portal. So this is a not exhaustive list of some things that have happened. Of course, this whole eclipse portal kicked off with the Hezbollah pager explosions. Very exciting. The UN Pact for the Future passed, which has big focuses on climate change, and it requires compulsory education for all the children on the whole planet about global citizenship, human rights, climate change, and more. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in there, shall we say. So that was something very important that passed that maybe most people did not hear about. The UN General Assembly met, and I don't know, there a whole bunch of stuff happened there. We had the P. Diddy revelations about the crazy parties he was hosting. Of course, most people that probably watch this channel were well aware of this and have known about this for years, but for some people, this was quite a shock. Enormous destruction from Hurricane Helene in the eastern United States destroyed entire towns. From what I understand, there are at least 13,000 people missing. I think the official number is like 200 or something like that. But from what I'm reading on social media, thousands of people have not been found or accounted for yet. There are a ton of tsunami warnings in the Pacific. That's something I just discovered today. And so if you Google that up, you'll see that there was a lot of interesting stuff happening. We had some earthquakes. I think a big earthquake in Japan triggered a tsunami warning. In Australia, there was a tsunami warning that was sent to a whole ton of people, but it turned out it was just a test, but everybody like freaked out, which is also like so eclipse portal-y. So a lot of concerns about tsunamis during the past 2 weeks. There was an exploded biolab in Conyers, Georgia that just happened, I think on Sunday. It is literally exploding in the primary colors, guys. There's like bright red smoke, there's like black smoke, yellow smoke. The pictures are crazy. 17,000 people were evacuated. I have a friend that lives there, and she was saying that her kids are having trouble breathing. They say to close all the windows. She doesn't have an air filter. We're like, get an air filter. This is crazy. We'll skip this one for a second. The longshoremen strike, like we've been building up to it for the past couple of weeks, and as of 1 hour ago when I made this PowerPoint presentation like 5 hours ago, the strike has officially started. So what is that going to do? It's going to impact all shipping on the East Coast, just at a time when you kind of need functional shipping, dealing with all of the disaster from Hurricane Helene, okay? And a lot more stuff has happened. I mentioned Magic the Gathering. I'm not into it, but my husband is a very enthusiastic Magic the Gathering player. It's a card game. It's a collectible card game. And I guess there's a thing called Commander, and he was telling me last night all of the Commander drama that just happened. I mean, if you know about Magic the Gathering, then you know about this drama, probably. And if you don't, then it doesn't really matter to you. But it was just something that he mentioned because I told him like, oh man, this eclipse portal. And he said, oh my gosh, wait, unusually crazy things are supposed to happen. Wow, it's just like Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast. So a lot of things have been happening for a lot of people in a lot of different spheres, and it's pretty crazy. We're looking at global upheaval and personal upheaval. We kicked off this lunar eclipse with the Virgo Pisces axis, and then we're closing with a solar eclipse in Libra. And so these two axes deal with some different stuff, and I think we will all see for ourselves how those show up for us. The Virgo Pisces axis deals with health, logic and intuition, practicality versus pie in the sky, jobs, employment, mental health, and physical health. Libra deals with relationships, allies and alliances, legal contracts, balance, fairness, justice. And so on top of those two themes, we've also had Mars in Cancer, which can manifest as action taken in the home or action involving your mother. And often that Mars makes things conflicting, okay? Basically, we have a lot of energy here for if you're feeling a lot of conflict in your home, either in your personal home, like the house that you live in, or your greater home of your larger community, that can be reflected with that. It doesn't have to be conflict. It can just be an impetus to take action and to get something started. But a lot of times, it shows up as conflict. We're also going through Mercury cazimi, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when it comes to assessing your own personal life, these are some things that you may have seen some shifts in the past 2 weeks, and I just want you to think about these as I read them out loud. Has your employment situation shifted, or your finances? Virgo really deals more with employment than with finances. It's more like the daily routine. How has your daily routine experienced upheaval? How has your employment situation as part of your daily routine experienced upheaval? I feel like mine experienced a lot of upheaval, and I wasn't on YouTube very much because of that. We saw a lot of conferences, and like the UN General Assembly met, the doTERRA convention happened up in Salt Lake City. And anyways, a lot of people had their normal routines disrupted to go to these different events and stuff like that. How has the way that you see the world changed when it comes to your logic and your spirituality? Okay, have you had any big aha moments that had you say, okay, maybe I've been thinking about this situation the wrong way. Maybe I need to think about it in a different way. Any changes in your relationships, any one-on-one relationship would count, including romantic relationships as number one, but then also a one-on-one relationship with an employee, an employer, a teacher, a child, a student, whatever, any kind of one-on-one relationship, especially the ones that have felt historically unfair. And we are building up right now to really dig into that unfairness energy really quick. So we're also looking at changes with legal contracts, conflict in the home, how we're thinking about balance and fairness in our lives, mental health situations, and physical health situations. I know of several people who had mental health total explosions, mental health, they're in the hospital right now, mental hospitals. This is all in alignment with what's going on in the astrological weather. Mercury cazimi is happening right now, which is when Mercury is within 1 degree of the sun. Cazimi refers to that Mercury is in the heart of the sun, and this is considered a protected place for a planet to be. It's considered very enlightened and good, basically. But there is evidence that when Mercury transits across the face of the sun, which is what happens during Mercury cazimi, the transit actually disrupts the light and heat from the sun. I mean, if you just think about it, the sun is emitting all this light and heat towards the earth. Then you have Mercury, this other planet that's coming in between the earth and the sun, and it's disrupting the flow of the light and the heat and the UV rays and all of that stuff. This affects the weather, and this guy, Ken Ring, the long range forecaster, has a big website about it. I like to follow him on Facebook, and he has talked about this, how these, he's talking about true planetary weather and how truly when the planets transit in these different ways, it actually affects the extremes of weather that we're experiencing right now. So even though we just had Hurricane Helene, now we have a couple storms that were supposed to hit the same place. Now maybe they've changed direction. I think we're in for a few more storms, big storms, in the next week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But this Mercury cazimi is going to be messing with the barometric pressure in the global atmosphere. So let's talk about this actual eclipse. As we are heading into this solar eclipse, we have some big resetting energy happening, especially in the area of Libra. That's the sun, moon, and black moon right here at 10 degrees. Oh my goodness, so tight. On a global level, there's an invitation to reset alliances, legal contracts, and global definitions of fairness and equity. And I think that we definitely have been seeing that with UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly, huge focuses on equity and fairness. Right now, we're seeing some of that with the FEMA response to Hurricane Helene. I was just reading this morning about how FEMA's #1 goal has stopped being preparing for emergencies, and its #1 goal has been equity and fairness, and making sure that they are made up of like equally representative forces, that everybody has the right colors and genders and stuff. So we're going to be seeing how that plays out. What happens when fairness becomes the obsession over like maybe functionality. This is a fairness versus functionality situation where we're going to have a lot of eyes drawn to this question. This eclipse is making an interesting T-square, that's this red line right here, with Mars and the part of fortune, which indicates that some outside events may kind of force our hand when it comes to resetting old balances, okay? What kind of external things are going to show up on a global level and on a personal level that's going to make you say, hey, I don't think this is very fair and I don't like it. I do not like it. The Libra-Aries axis has several big questions and themes attached to it, but one of the biggies is, how much should I prioritize me and how much do I prioritize you? Aries is a me first energy and Libra is a you first energy. It's really a balance energy, but a lot of times the balance ends up favoring you, instead of me. So this eclipse is inviting us to dig into what might not be serving us with the you first energy. This is going to be happening on a personal level and a political level, where we all have to ask ourselves, where have we been putting other people first to our own detriment? Remember that the North Node here is in Aries, calling us to put ourselves first in a healthy way. Have those good, healthy boundaries. Over here in Libra, we have this really interesting issue of the black moon right here at 10 degrees with the sun and the moon. And we'll come back to that, but this is all about setting boundaries. And let's see. Okay, here we go. We're talking about it, the stellium. We have this big stellium right here. A stellium is when you have 3 or more planets or points within 7 degrees. So we have the south node, the moon, the sun, the black moon, and Mercury all within 5 degrees at 6, 10, 10, 10, and 11 degrees of Libra. This is huge energy going beyond normal solar eclipse energies, in my opinion. Like, that's a bunch of stuff really tight. We have an invitation to look at our ancestral patterns of putting other people first and allowing things to be unfair in some ways because we feel like the unfairness itself is fair, if that makes any sense. That South Node pulls up generational baggage, and we're invited to look at that with this eclipse. Where in your personal family history and your personal past have you had bad boundaries with other people and bad boundaries in your life because that's what it took to keep the peace? Maybe because you didn't feel like you deserved to experience fairness the way that you wanted to. These are things to be thinking about. We have the Black Moon Lilith, who right here, who needs respect and autonomy above all. She needs to be allowed to do what she needs to do. We have the Black Moon in between the Sun and Mercury. So we have the need for autonomy and respect coming in between our core sense of self and our thinking and communicating. So what is this doing? It is kind of like severing the old bond that we had between our old ways of thinking about our relationships and what is fair in our relationships. And this Black Moon is sitting there saying, enough is enough, buddy. I need to be respected. I need to be allowed to do what I need to do to put myself first. I feel like the Black Moon is really a lot more comfortable in Aries energy than in Libra energy. So to have this North Node drawing us over to Aries and this Black Moon right here saying, I'm in Libra and enough is enough. Like, this balance is not balanced and this fairness is not fair and I'm over it. We're going to see a big personal and global drive to break up unhealthy you first patterns whether we like it or not. And I will just mention really fast that, you know, one of the interesting things about fairness is that we have these different competing ideas, you know, like this, the idea of like equity and inclusion and diversity as a form of fairness, and then people that are more like merit-based fairness. On both sides of the table, we have people saying things are not fair and enough is enough. And they have differing ideas of what is fair. So we, you know, you and me going into this, we need to recognize this, that we are going to be dealing with massive issues of fairness. But what is fair? You know, and my idea of fair and your idea of fair may not be exactly the same idea. And either way, you know, we're going to be taking action to try and bring things to greater fairness, but we all see fairness a little differently. How this shows up is going to depend on everyone's personal natal chart and the energy that they bring to their natal chart. There's no such thing as a bad natal chart, but there is bad energy. Like you can have a bad attitude, and if you have a bad attitude, your chart's going to show up bad for you, basically. We are probably looking at a big rise in me first energy as that black moon disrupts the you first energy of Libra and demands respect for her own choices and desires. The black moon does not want to answer to anybody. She operates above or below the fray of normal society. She's that medicine woman who lives on the hut outside of the village, and she's observing the village. She serves the village, but she does it in a way that she wants to do it, and nobody gets to boss her around. You know, the village elders bow to her, and she does not bow back to them. She is, you know, she's there for a reason. She's there to honor her own intuition and her own decisions, and she requires that everybody else also honors her decisions for her own life. She looks at the group dynamic and opts out of that. She dares anybody to fight her on that. She is not going to go along with the crowd just because. She is going to do her own thing. And maybe it will be along with the crowd, but maybe not. This stellium all squaring this Mars right here. We're looking at increased global conflict and personal conflict. This does not have to be negative because Mars allows us to choose. Do we fight with the thing or for the thing? In this case, do we fight with our home or for our home? If you are seeing extra conflict in your personal life, this is a choice you get to dig into. How can you transform the conflict energy you are exposed to from fighting with the people in your home to fighting for the people in your home? We also have a grand trine water involving Venus, Mars, and Saturn, which indicates a speedy connection between the feminine, masculine, and the concept of karma, or the law of the harvest, where we take action, where we receive the results of action, and where we pay for what we have done or get paid for what we have done. All of this is highlighting right now. Taking action, receiving the rewards of our actions, and then you know, the law of the harvest. Is it good or bad? What actions have we taken? How are we going to pay for that? So we can expect to see some big results or consequences now and in the coming days and weeks from our own personal polarity journeys and our global polarity issues. So this is a screenshot of my book, Magnetic Femininity, which is all about polarity stuff. Oh, can you hear my child following me around? Okay, hey baby, I need you to play with Tegan for a while. I need to record this immediately. Honey, I have 3 minutes to finish this presentation before my next meeting. Okay, get. Love you, bye. Okay. So I'm going to recommend checking out this book if you haven't, especially if you're a woman. It's really written for women. I think men can benefit from it, but it's really fun. Our feminine and masculine polarity issues are going to be coming up to the forefront, and we're going to see some law of the harvest action happening. I think we're also going to be seeing some interesting stuff with the economy because this solar eclipse is taking place in America's natal 10th house, and it's going to kind of trigger our natal Saturn. So we are going to be seeing some law of the harvest around our businesses, our work situations, I'm expecting some shifts with trade. I'm thinking of the longshoreman strike that just started, issues with transportation and trade after Hurricane Helene, the UNGA stuff. We also have Mars conjunct America's sun. Note that for this eclipse, Mars is conjunct America's natal sun. This is an invitation for extra conflict at home. And with this all squaring the eclipse and America's natal Saturn, I'm thinking, okay, we're gearing up for some bigger conflict than usual. Also note that Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, is conjunct America's natal Mars. Do you see this? Mars, Mars, Jupiter, Sun, and then this. This is a big expansion of conflict energy that's going to come back to me first or you first. Okay, how do we put ourselves first in a healthy way? I think a lot of people will put ourselves first in an unhealthy way. And I think we're going to see some conflict about it. All of this is trining America's natal south node, which is going to bring up our generational baggage, especially in the area of Aquarius, the humanitarian. How have we overextended ourselves in a futile attempt to save the world, to be humanitarians? Our failures are going to be highlighted here, and we're going to be asked to really dig into our baggage around wanting to save the world, like America's savior complex, basically. We have a call to wake up and see where our trying to save people has not worked out. Also notice this, Chiron, right here. This is our greatest soul wound as a nation. Oh boy, and it's just getting closer and closer to being exact with our natal Chiron, just in time for election day. So that is going to be really exciting. And this is trining America's natal Lilith with a huge emphasis on boundaries, respect, and autonomy. So what do we need to do about it? On a personal level, we need to realize that everything going on is in God's hands. There are bigger stories in play than we realize. Nothing is happening by mistake. So as much as we can find peace about this, I think we need to. Look for where you need to assert some different or better boundaries in your personal relationships in a healthy way. How can you express yourself without causing more damage? I'm going to recommend checking out Magnetic Femininity, Chapter 4 for clear instructions. When you start feeling like you want to fight, ask yourself, are you fighting with what you love or for what you love? How can you pivot the conflict? And I'm going to invite us to connect with our creator for personalized guidance of what to do and how to handle things. I have these sessions to recommend today, and over the next couple of days, these 5 sessions are the ones that really stood out to me. Coping with big changes is going to help you handle anything big that's happening in your life right now, the big shifts that you're dealing with. The cord cutting session is going to help you reset a lot of your relationships that are very unhealthy right now. The frustration session is going to help you clear out the frustrations that you're having in your relationships that are leading to conflict. The fear clearing is going to help you handle any fears that have come up about everything that's going on in the world today. We don't have to be afraid. It's safe to feel peace about what's going on in the world. And the session on forgiveness is going to help you forgive all of the big things that need to be forgiven. So you will see for yourself that as you do forgive, you will feel lighter and just so much more peace. You'll be able to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish so much better. Okay, thank you guys for being here. We will see you tomorrow for the eclipse. Very, very exciting. Hang in there. You're doing amazing.